ASX 股票小猎豹油管订阅，收藏，打开小铃铛，转发评论。
sub YouTube,
Stop cheetah, like, comment forward, etc.
Ooh. Looks like I'd be not playing on concrete out there today.
It is absolutely a silver lining for us to have a new building. And having this come back, this is like the icing on the top now. It's just, it feels like it's, you know, it's a really big milestone for our community.
Sabrina wants to show me how the recovery is going on her farm on the western side of the island, which was hardest hit by the fires.
The biggest fire and the most impact was probably on the 3rd of January 2020, which is when we lost the club building at Western Districts and we lost most of the homes in the area.
The fires that summer burned hectares of land. The inferno lasted 6 weeks, killing tens of thousands of animals and taking the lives of 2 locals. Sabrina's husband, an experienced firefighter, filmed this terrifying footage as the fire raged around their home.
Come on, piss off. Burn and piss off, will you?
Ben, his brother and his father sheltered inside.
Jesus. Yeah, well, we tried.
They made their escape as soon as it was safe.
We're looking for.
The fires went through here in the evening and we literally just lost our property. So we lost all of our stock, fencing, infrastructure and our house.
After a year of living
哇哦，量子计算！哎，你怎么知道这个的？这可是最近的热门话题呢。你对这个感兴趣？
on Kingscote, Sabrina and her 2 children returned to help Ben on the farm while their new home was being built.
It was really challenging. I had a few months where I was quite emotional. We were very grateful for the new house and finally be able to spread our wings again and, you know, have a lot more space. But it's taken time to, you know, become a home. It takes a long time to create new memories in it.
Australian business owners can now get up to $1 million in as little as 24 hours. There's a new program available that
The New South Wales Crime Commission correct the record now?
Oh, of course it should. If for no other reason than this, the truth is important. The truth should come out.
Standon's legacy lives on. After James Kinch fought his way out of Australia, he was pursued by authorities around the world before being arrested in Thailand.
The truth is, there never is and there never was any drugs.
17 years on, the AFP has still tried to seize some of Kinch's wealth, including his house in Portugal. And we've been told by underworld figure that James Kinch was recently seen in Bangkok with Australian drug dealers.
These events aren't old. They're recent enough so that the international drug suppliers that stand and facilitate it, they're still operative today. And these crime rings, which he opened, are still in place. We should look at all of this, look at it carefully. Why? Because we may be able to unpick those crime rings.
One thing's for sure, if we don't fix the system up, if we don't open our eyes and are honest about what has gone wrong, then it may be something that'll happen again.
As a fighter, when you lose a fight, you get an opportunity to look at that fight and see what you did wrong. See what you did wrong and become a better person, become a better fighter. Where the New South Wales Crime Commission had that opportunity, but they didn't. By suppressing the truth, all they're doing is setting a benchmark for the next mark standard to come along.
It's going to define a generation.
When the fires tore through Los Angeles, I was there to report. Hi. Now I'm back to see what went wrong.
Before the fire, during the fire, after. I didn't see fire trucks.
Do not wait for an official evacuation notice. Get out!
We have to do more to prevent this.
Today, the shock still sits deep.
It was my life.
We're going to have to go through it, get through it, move forward.
Foreign Correspondent, Tuesday at 8 on ABC and ABC iView.
Tonight, Dutton's wayward kick injures a cameraman, while both leaders make their pledge to reclaim the port of Darwin. International markets take another hit as Donald Trump's new tariff regime takes effect.
This week, Donald Trump made one of the dumbest decisions he's ever made as president, and that is saying a whole lot.
Notorious crime boss Tony Mockbell's first full day of freedom after 18 years behind bars. And Australian explorer Eric Phillips returns to Earth after an historic space mission. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Mariam Saab. Only a matter of hours apart, Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton have both reached the same conclusion that Australia needs to own the strategic port of Darwin. Its lease has been controlled by a Chinese company for a decade, but for different reasons, the two leaders now believe that it must be taken out of Beijing's hands and become government-owned if necessary. Here's political correspondent Greg Jennett.
Okay, ready?
In the wrong hands, almost anything can be weaponised. The consequences?
Got him.
If it all goes wrong, casualties that could have been avoided. Before the Sharon shelling, Peter Dutton's top-end tour was aimed at putting back in Australian hands an asset held by China for a decade.
We'll move immediately to secure the Darwin port. We need to make sure that we recognise the times in which we live.
In Queensland's Sodden Centre,
if you stick to this country in the dry, it'll stick to you in the wet.
Anthony Albanese had gone to meet flooded farmers Mardo, Beck, Cooper and Jacob.
Determined to build back, and it's important that Australia supports them.
Recovery payments and a joint fund with the state to fix broken fences are on offer.
Unreal, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Although landlocked, he too ended up in the same policy place as his opponent, on the port of Darwin.
We have a clear view, which is that it should be in Australian hands.
Used by American forces and the warships of other friendly nations, the leasehold sale of the port to the Chinese-owned land bridge has been a bugbear to the US and others for a decade. At the time, coalition and country Liberal governments were in place in Canberra and Darwin.
It's clear that a mistake was made many years ago.
This is the guy who sold it.
Now, both sides of politics want it back in Australian private ownership, and if not...
If need be, we will purchase as well.
If we need to introduce further legislation, then we will do that to achieve this outcome.
No one's talking publicly about price. One's spoken privately to the Chinese.
We had contact yesterday with the Chinese ambassador.
He's obviously got better connections with the Chinese ambassador. It's a very strange thing for him to say.
Anthony Albanese insists the government's told the port's current owners of its intentions. Landbridge not only disputes that, we haven't had any discussions with the federal government or the NT government, it maintains, adding the port is not for sale. On their journey to the same destination of Australian ownership, the government and opposition come from different stated directions. Anthony Albanese suggests economic resilience is a key factor. Peter Dutton highlights the risk of Chinese sabotage or surveillance on the port. Either way, the careful diplomacy with Beijing could now become bruising. Greg Jennett, ABC News, Canberra.
And the ABC has spoken to top-end voters about whether the Darwin port promises will be front of mind when they cast their ballot this May.
Almost a decade on, the Darwin port is once again a federal election issue, and it's something many local voters still feel strongly about.
We should control our own infrastructure. I don't think it's a good idea that China should run our infrastructure.
It is important and it should come back to Darwin or to Australia.
Both sides are saying it shouldn't be done. We did it. It's been done, and now we're saying it shouldn't have been done. It's embarrassing, utterly embarrassing.
It's a battle of the port pledges, Peter Dutton's commitment to regain control set follows the PM's impromptu call to ABC Radio Darwin's Drive program on Friday, when he promised to negotiate a deal to take back the Darwin port.
We will enter into negotiations to do that. That is what we've been doing informally through potential buyers up to this point already.
The Prime Minister's had 3 years to act. He pretends on radio last night in a hurried call, late in the afternoon. I don't know what he'd been doing before he got on the phone, but he was pretty muddled in what he was saying, and it was almost incoherent.
The controversy began in 2015 with a deal worth just over $500 million.
Landbridge has been appointed as the operator of the Darwin port for the next 99 years.
At the time, the country Liberal Party government said the port's infrastructure was ailing and that privatising the publicly owned asset was the best move for the territory.
And leverage the returns from that investment into other areas of economic advancement.
The move attracted criticism from defence analysts and even caught the attention of former US President Barack Obama. But there were calls for calm from Beijing.
I'm hoping that the public look at the cooperation between Australia and Chinese enterprises more objectively and rationally.
In a public statement this weekend, Landbridge says it's an active supporter of the Northern Territory community and again maintains the port is not for sale. Sam Parry, ABC News.
Global stock markets have tumbled again after China hit back at tariffs announced by US President Donald Trump. Customs agents at American seaports, airports and customs warehouses have today begun collecting levies on imports as fears mount of an all-out trade war.
A brutal end to a punishing week.
We have a market that is throwing a temper tantrum.
All major indices spiralling. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down another 5.5%. The S&P 500 nearly 6%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq is in bear territory after falling more than 20% from its recent high. The escalating global trade war, the catalyst. China bent on a 34% tariff on American imports in retaliation for those the US president announced this week.
The market is pricing in an economic Armageddon.
Donald Trump taking to social media to attack Beijing's decision, claiming China played it wrong and panicked. The head of the US central bank says the concern is warranted and that the global trade war will push up prices.
It is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected.
Some of the fencing has been damaged.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese hitting the phone, talking to his British counterpart as they work towards a coordinated response to what's looking like a global crisis. Despite the major market sell-offs and warnings of an increased risk of recession, Donald Trump does not appear to be backing down. But pressure will build as Americans start feeling the pinch of increased prices. His political opponents taking aim.
This week, Donald Trump made one of the dumbest decisions he's ever made as president, and that is saying a whole lot.
After the battering of this week, investors are nervously waiting to see whether the US president has a change of heart. Carrington Clark, ABC News, Washington.
Notorious underworld figure Tony Mockbell has marked his first day of freedom after being released on bail yesterday. Mockbell is appealing to overturn his conviction after his lawyer was found to be a police informant.
After almost 2 decades behind bars, Tony Mockbell was keen to stretch his legs. Taking a walk through a park with his family, media pack in tow.
How does it feel? How was your walk this morning? You seem quite cheery.
The underworld figure seemingly enjoying his first morning of freedom as he fights to overturn his convictions.
You know I've got proceedings on foot and I can't talk to anyone, so please, thank you.
Tony Mockbell was released on bail yesterday while he appeals. The court was scathing of his former lawyer Nicola Gobbo, who secretly passed information on him to police, with senior judges saying he has a very strong case. He's been set a list of 30 bail conditions, including not using a smartphone, checking in with police each day, and wearing an electronic monitoring device. He saw out his day with some retail therapy.
Those first few days are going to be almost surreal, I imagine, after being incarcerated for so long. So some people may be drawn to shopping centres, other people may be drawn to beaches or other outdoor areas. So it really, I guess, depends on what that individual has been craving and missing.
Tony Mockbell will remain living at his sister's home here in Viewbank while fighting to quash his convictions. And while yesterday's decision was a significant victory, a win at his upcoming appeal will make him an entirely free man. If he's successful in court, experts say it would be a seismic outcome.
If those charges are quashed in relation to the cases associated with Nicola Gobbo, this is sending shockwaves through the entire criminal justice system in Victoria.
And there could be more cases to follow. Leanne Wong, ABC News, Melbourne.
Security has been ramped up at AFL games in the wake of this week's firearms breach at the MCG. Some fans have been kept waiting well into the first quarter of this afternoon's clash between Richmond and the Brisbane Lions. Authorities are reviewing procedures at major events following the failure by staff to detect the weapons.
Thank you for your patience as you make your way into the ground.
Long lines and lengthy delays for some fans heading into the MCG for this afternoon's Tigers clash against the Brisbane Lions. Security tightened for the first game at the stadium since Thursday night's scare.
Shocked, really shocked. Something terrible really could have happened. My scarf will go off because of the badges and I get patted down and my bag, my huge bag gets checked. So how they got in with firearms is beyond me.
The MCC, Victoria Police and the AFL reviewing procedures after police allegedly found guns on 2 men inside the ground during Collingwood's clash with Carlton. The MCC blaming human error for the frightening breach, saying there had been a breakdown in the manual screening process, even after automated screening units identified items of concern.
Maybe this is a wake-up call for the security companies to make sure that they're doing their job properly.
It's not good for the game.
South Australian authorities also reviewing security for next week's gather round, with 18 sides meeting in Adelaide.
You can't discount risk, and that's exactly why SAPOL will be beefing up security as they do every year.
Police say Thursday's alleged breach was an isolated incident and is not being investigated for terrorism. But with a system this vulnerable, questions are being asked about what it could mean for future crowd safety at major events.
We don't want families getting a message that if they come to the football, there's going to be people here that are carrying any weapon, specifically loaded firearms, into the MCG.
The MCG and our sporting events are not any place for weapons. It's a very clear message. And Victoria Police are working very hard to make sure that they have a presence at these sporting events into the future.
Punters were just keen to see the action.
Because it's going to take a long time and I want to watch the game.
A sentiment shared by many. Sasha Payne, ABC News, Melbourne.
Fines and class action. Over a cyber breach which led to four members of one super fund losing $500,000 combined. It's also led to questions over whether funds have properly protected members' accounts.
Members of some of the country's biggest superannuation funds are still struggling to access their accounts after a suspected cyber breach. 4 Australian super members have lost $500,000 combined. The fund says it's working with those members but won't say whether they'll get their money back.
There would be some liability on the superannuation firm to ensure that their members' accounts were protected. So I think it's just a bit early to get down that path.
With only those of retirement age able to access funds, it's likely to be over 60-year-olds who've been victims of the attack. The ABC has heard from members who are angry and confused about what's happening with their retirement savings, and they've raised questions over whether their accounts were properly protected. Australian Super says it has an ongoing program for improving cybersecurity, and it has a two-factor authentication process for a number of interactions. Some are required, others are opt-in.
It would make a lot more sense for multi-factor authentication to be the norm as opposed to an opt-in.
While it will take time to investigate what's happened, like Medibank and Optus, the super funds could face class actions or fines in the wake of the security breach.
Financial services is one of the most highly regulated sectors in Australia, and there are heavy fines for breaches of their different obligations.
Super funds responsible for trillions of dollars are being warned to remain vigilant to increasing cyber attacks. Fiona Blackwood, ABC News.
Ukrainian officials say a Russian missile strike killed at least 18 people, 9 of them children, in the city of Kryvyi. More than 50 others were wounded, among them a 3-month-old baby. Officials say the missile hit a residential area and children were killed at or near a playground. They say the city was later targeted by drones. The attack on President Volodymyr Zelensky's home city is one of the deadliest by Russia this year. Moscow says it struck a military gathering, a claim that Ukraine has denounced as misinformation. Supporters of impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol have protested in Seoul against the Constitutional Court's ruling to uphold his impeachment. He was impeached in December of last year after a short-lived declaration of martial law. Thousands of protesters have been chanting, singing and waving both South Korean and US flags, with some saying that it feels like the country has fallen apart and they can't accept the court's ruling. The decision by the Constitutional Court to uphold Yoon's impeachment means a new president has to be elected within 60 days. A federal judge in the United States has ruled that the Trump administration must return a father who was wrongly deported to El Salvador. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whose wife and children are US citizens, was sent to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador, despite a court order that was supposed to protect him from deportation.
A family torn apart by a government mistake.
In a blink of an eye, our 3 children lost their father, and I lost the love of my life.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia was deported to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador last month after immigration officials made what they now admit was an administrative error. His wife Jennifer has been unable to contact him.
I'm doing the best to fight for you and our children.
His lawyers say the 29-year-old moved to the United States as a teenager to escape gang violence in El Salvador. In 2019, a judge granted him protection from being sent back on the basis he faced legitimate fear of persecution there. But in March, immigration officials did just that. They've since admitted that was a mistake.
The government sent him there, knowing it was prohibited from sending him there.
It's just not enough to admit that you made a mistake. You need to fix it.
The government is now arguing it's powerless to bring him back, but a judge says they have to, calling his deportation an illegal act.
Well, you can see just how affected this community has been by Kilmar Abrego Garcia's deportation. And he's just one of so many people who've been swept up in these deportations. And it's not just families and communities who are questioning the legality and morality of the Trump administration's deportation regime.
It's ridiculous. It's like they just look at you and they say that you shouldn't be here. And that's frightening for everyone.
This is a free-for-all kidnap and abduct.
The Trump administration has until midnight on Monday to arrange for Abrego Garcia's return. Lauren Day, ABC News, Maryland.
US President Donald Trump has extended a deadline for Chinese firm ByteDance to sell the popular social media apps TikTok's US operations. ByteDance had until April the 5th to sell its US operations to a non-Chinese owner or to face a ban in the US over national security concerns. An agreement was reportedly close, and Mr. Trump has spoken about using tariffs as a negotiating tool to close the deal. The president said that he will sign an executive order to push the deadline back by 75 days, the second extension he's granted. A SpaceX crew that orbited around the Earth's poles for the first time has splashed down off the coast of California. The private mission was funded and led by Maltese cryptocurrency investor Chung Wang. His three crew members, including Australian adventurer Eric Phillips, a polar researcher who became the first German woman in space, and a Norwegian film director, spent 4 days orbiting the Earth and conducting experiments. It's the sixth fully private mission funded by the Elon Musk-owned company. It's a colourful cornerstone of Sydney's queer culture, a grungy pub that became a safe haven for the community. The Imperial Hotel made its mark on the big screen decades ago. Now its story will be guarded for many more to come.
In the Priscilla's experience!
This venue is no stranger to a party. Now there's even more reason to dance at the Imperial Hotel. Affectionately known as the Impy, the landmark in Erskineville will now be protected for decades to come.
We are recognising and have put the Imperial Hotel on the State Heritage Register.
Once a working man's pub, it transformed into a queer safe haven under Dawn O'Donnell in the 80s, an entrepreneur who ran gay and lesbian venues when homosexuality was illegal.
I worked for Dawn for about 7 or 8 years, actually. It was quite an experience, actually. Quite an amazing woman.
It rose to international stardom in the 90s when it featured in the cult classic The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Australian folklore still honoured by these queens every Saturday night.
From an underground nightclub to the silver screen and now a heritage-listed site. It's fair to say the Imperial has been through many acts over the years, but its colourful story is far from over.
Priscilla happened now 30 years ago. How are we bringing Priscilla to the TikTok generation?
Keeping this show on the road for many generations to come. Ethan Ricks, ABC News, Sydney.
Parramatta Eels recruit Zach Lomax has delivered a thrilling victory for his struggling NRL club. It was an emotional win for Lomax against his former side, St George Illawarra.
Players have switched allegiances between St George Illawarra and Parramatta in 2025. The former Eels captain was fired up at Western Sydney Stadium.
Under the crossbar.
As winless Parramatta fell behind.
He has his second back at home. Clint Gutherson making this game his own.
But something changed for the blue and gold after the break, and a former Dragon levelled the score.
Zach Lomax from a long way out.
In Golden Point, the Star Centre did it again.
Zach Lomax to hand Parramatta their first win of the season and hit it upright and went through.
To deliver a sweet victory for the Eels faithful, 23 points to 22.
It's a tough one, and it gets a bit emotional though, but it's just a good win.
And last night, Latrell Mitchell made his return for the resurgent Rabbitohs.
First time in the NRL in the centres since he was a Rooster.
He starred in the 20 points to 14 victory over fierce rivals, the Roosters.
What a pass! What a showman!
But the match was marred by a brawl in the crowd. 22 fans were evicted and the NRL is investigating. Bindi Bryce, ABC News.
The Ashcroft brothers have lit up the MCG today, helping Brisbane to a 28-point win over Richmond. The reigning premiers led at every change to see off the Tigers with ease. It was a different story on the Gold Coast, the Suns holding on in a nail-biter against Adelaide to win by a point.
Back at the scene of last year's premiership, Will Ashcroft was once again front and centre.
Ashcroft winding up.
His crafty skills helping out teammate Zach Bailey as he booted 3 first-half goals, opening up a comfortable lead. Brother Levi added to his own highlights reel, while last year's #1 pick showed promise for the Tigers' future. The side no match for the Lions' magic.
Oh no! That is incredible!
But finishing with their heads held high. On a roll and at home for the first time this season, Gold Coast made a fast start.
And the Gold Coast get their third.
The Crows soon found their connection, taking a narrow lead into half-time.
And Adelaide, for the first time today, are in front.
The battle between young and old was on in the third.
Tex goes to ground. McAndrew kept his feet.
And the Suns found themselves on top with a quarter to play. But the Crows never let up. Taylor Walker and Riley Thilthorpe closing the gap.
He's going to stroll in and kick another one.
Before Isaac Rankin spilled a chance to get his side in front.
No whistle. Umpire put it away.
A controversial end.
The Gold Coast Suns are going to hold on for a memorable win.
And nasty scenes post-game. Last night in Geelong,
The pounce, swoop and goal.
a Patrick Dangerfield masterclass saw Melbourne slump to their 4th loss to start the year, leaving midfield star Christian Petrarca noticeably frustrated.
No, he's a proud leader of our footy club, and of course he's going to be disappointed.
A gather-round fixture against Essendon next weekend awaits. Erin Marisico-Vetere, ABC News.
On the satellite picture, tropical activity has settled across the north as a cold front cloud passes over Tasmania and a trough near the southwest of Western Australia. We're expecting to see showers and storms continue to impact parts of Western Australia, the Northern Territory, Queensland and Tasmania, remaining dry elsewhere. Let's check the weather across the country for tomorrow next. Queensland mostly sunny across the interior and west, with isolated showers and the odd thunderstorm elsewhere. New South Wales and the ACT can expect a dry and mostly sunny day with light winds and the chance of showers in the south and northeast corner. In Victoria, scattered showers across the southern ranges, mostly clear and dry in the north and a cool day in the south. Turning to Tasmania, we'll be seeing showers statewide during the day, as well as fresh and gusty winds in the western regions. South Australia mostly sunny in the west and north, with showers expected alongside southern and central regions. For Western Australia, possible showers over parts of the southwest and a chance of thunderstorms in the northern regions. And to the Northern Territory, where there's a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms across the north of Tennant Creek and sunny in the south, with light to moderate east and southeasterly winds in the morning. Looking ahead to Monday's forecast for our capital cities, sunshine for Brisbane, Sydney and Canberra, Melbourne and Hobart, a possible shower, Adelaide partly cloudy, Perth mostly sunny, and a shower or two in Darwin, reaching right up to 33 degrees there. And a reminder, daylight savings ends at 2 a.m. Sunday morning, so this means that if you live in New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania or the ACT, you'll need to turn your clocks back 1 hour before going to bed tonight. And there's more on the ABC News app and on ABC iView. I'm Mariam Saab, foreign correspondent, is coming up next. Stay with us.
This week on News Breakfast, Charles and Catherine are hitting the road and heading to Adelaide ahead of the AFL's Gather Round.
And we are also packing our bags to get on the federal election campaign trail. There's less than a month to go until polling day. You don't want to miss it. See you then.
A house with a long history.
This looks like it's had some really tough days.
It's been bed sits, it's been a hostel, it's been a halfway house.
Oh my, this is disgusting. It's horrendous.
And a couple on a tight deadline.
There is no wiggle room.
It's nothing like a baby to get everybody motivated, right?
What could go wrong?
This feels huge.
That's not happiness on your face, that's exhaustion. We're very proud of how far it's come.
Restoration Australia, Thursday at 8, or stream the full season on ABC iView.
You're looking at a conservation triumph. And you'd think these endangered elephants are universally loved. But not here in Botswana.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Elephants are terrorizing us.
Elephant are vermin.
They cut down the fence. They find a tap, they can break it and have water there. Sometimes they can even kill people.
In southern Africa, they are absolutely not vulnerable, extinct, or endangered. There's a growing, abundant population.
Botswana has the largest number of elephants anywhere on the planet, but hosting such an enormous population comes with big problems.
We're basically gonna be making a do-it-yourself tear gas.
Yep, I can see how that could work. Yep.
Trophy hunting is being used as part of the solution, but there's global pressure to shut it down.
I don't know why we are looked down upon as Africa that we can't look after our own resources. What hunting does is it creates tolerance, especially for the people on the ground.
We are pissed off. Hunting is a waste of time. It's only 2 or 3 people that are benefit.
We're travelling across northern Botswana to see how this competition for space and resources is affecting humans and these amazing animals. We see who's benefiting from and who's paying the price for this conservation success story. This national park in Botswana is home to one of the largest game concentrations in Africa. It's easy to envy Kgmotso Mothello's job as a safari guide.
Welcome to Chobe National Park. Chobe National Park covers about 11,700 square kilometers.
Do you ever get tired of coming into the park every day for work?
Oh no, every day it's new for me.